Hello everyone, myself Fiona Paulson from the Department of Costume Design and Fashion, AJK College of Arts and Science. Today I'm going to speak on the topic fashion and its terms. Fashion is a form of self-expression and autonomy at a particular period and a place in a specific content of clothing, footwear, lifestyle, accessories and makeup, especially hairstyle and also body postures. The term implies a look defined the fashion industry as which is trending. Everything that is considered fashion is available and popularized by the fashion system, industry and media. Due to increased mass production of commodities and clothing at lower prices and global reach, sustainability has become an urgent issue among politicians, brands and consumers. Fashion is defined in a number of different ways and its application is sometimes unclear. Though the fashion term cannot differ, the new fashion, the season, cannot be seamless. For example, the fashion of the year 1960s imply a general uniformity. Fashion can specify the latest trends and often refer fashion in previous era, leading to an understanding of fashion from a different period of time and reappearing. While what is fashionable can be defined by a relatively insecure, and it is rich, authentic, elite, and a look exclusive look, such as fashion houses. This look is defined by pulling references from subcultures and social groups who are not considered elite and thus exclude by making distinctions and fashion themselves. Whereas a trend often cannot be particular aesthetic expression, often lasting shorter than a season and being identical to a visual extreme. Fashion is a distinctive and an industry supported expression, traditionally tied in fashion season and collections. Style is an expression that lasts over many seasons and is often connected to cultural movements and social markets, symbols, class, and culture, such as Baroque and Rococo. According to sociology's Pierre Bartik, fashion cannot be lasted as the latest difference. Fashion is a form of expression. Fashion is what people wear in a specific content. If a stranger would appear in its setting adorning something different, the stranger would be considered out of fashion. Early Western travelers who visited India, Persia, Turkey or China would frequently remark telling that the change in fashion according to countries. In 1609, the Secretary of Japanese barked telling that the Spanish visitors who visited Japan was able to make different types of fashions around this 1,000 years. However, the consumption of non-Western clothing undergoing little if evolution are generally held to be uncure. In Chinese clothing, there is rapid changes, but still they keep on to their traditions. Now we can speak about fashion industry. In its most common use, the term fashion refers to the current expression on sale through the fashion industry. The global fashion industry is a product of the modern age. In the Western world, tailoring has since medieval times been controlled by guides. By the emergence of the industrialists, the power has been always underestimated, but the new fashion always stays as a beginning. By the beginning of the 20th century, the rise of new technologies such as sewing machines gave a rise to the global trade. The development of the factory system of production and the retail became into higher scale, but with standard sizes and sold in fixed prices. Although the fashion industry developed first in Europe and America, such as in the year 2017, and an international and highly globalized industry, with clothing often designed in one country, manufactured in another, and sold worldwide. For example, an American fashion company might source fabrics in China and have clothes manufactured in Vietnam, finished in Italy, and later given to the US. This is how a retail unit works. The fashion industry was for a long time one of the largest employer of the United States, and it remains in the 21st century. However, US employment is fashion began to decline considerably because data from the fashion industry typically are reported for national economics and expressed in industries in many sectors. The fashion industry consists of 4 levels: the production of raw materials, principally fiber, the textile, and also the leather and fur. The production of fashion, like the designers, manufacturers, contractors, etc. Then comes the retail sale, where it has various promotion and advertising processes. So now this is called as business of fashion. The business of fashion was founded in the year 2007 by Imran Ahmad, a fashion business advisor, writer and a digital entrepreneur. The fashion of began as a project of passion aiming to fill void for the informed, analytical and opted in many fashion businesses. The fashion business is an online magazine website dedicated to the world of fashion. It was founded in the year 2007, same by Imran Ahmad, a great person from Fashion Global. Now, it is frequently described as irregular, required reading and an addition. So there are 5 points concluding this. That is, understanding the fashion business, discussing about the fashion business, discuss about the fashion size and structure, understanding the business environment, understanding the business current trend. So the second point we're going to discuss is the business of fashion was founded by 2007 by Imran Ahmad, as we discussed earlier. The business of fashion began as a project of passion. So now we can see how fashion has become in a high in a shorter period. In a short period of time, the business of fashion became the most important media with the fashion industry. The unlimited references of fashion journalism read by the fashion personalities and most influenced by the voice of sectors. The BOF approaches the political, environmental or region or religious examples. The site is divided into 2 areas, that is the open one and the news reported. So we have many ethics which we follow in a business of fashion. The business of fashion core mission is to open information, connect the global fashion industry at the core of the mission and dedicated to the population. They do so in a complete editorial independence, free investors, influencers, commercial pressures or personal bias. The fashion industry is a modern day product and the industry is made out of several sorts of companies including shops, design sources, sales firms, etc. The Indian fashion sector can continue to grow and expand its appeal. The fashion industry is warming up to the current sustainability. According to the BOF, the Brand Equity Foundation, IBEF, the Indian apparel industry and textile contribution about 2.3% to the GDP of India, 13% of industrial production and 12% of export incomes. Now we can see the components of fashion industry. The fashion industry consists of 4 component levels. First one is the production of raw materials, principal fibers, textile leathers and fur. The second one, the production of fashion goods of designers, manufacturers, contractors and others. Third point is marketing is the form of advertisement and promotion. And fourth, the wholesale, retail sale and e-commerce. Now we can see the factors influencing fashion. The main factors which influence fashion can be divided into 5 sectors. First one is social factor, culture factor, political factor, environmental factor and psychological factor. The role of garments in ancient societies is supposed to be called as a safeguarding texture strands alike the cowhides takes into the experience of clothing old social orders. The clothing utilizes in adequate world reflects in the innovation for the people group asset. In numerous societies, dress demonstrated in economic well-being of different citizens. The advertisements of clothing and design is an only human trademark and it is a component of most human social orders. Apparel may be such as materials, for example, creature, skin and vegetation was the first utilized by the early people to shield their body for the components. The utilization of garments and materials over the ages mirrors the changing improvement of civic established and advances. History of dresses in the Indian subcontinent can be followed to the Indus Valley civilization on prior. India was principally worn compromised local gown dresses. India was one of the main spots where cotton was developed and utilized in the 2500 BCE during the Harappan period. The sighting and the remnant of the old Indian garment can be found in the dolls found in the destination close to the Indus Valley civilization. The stone cut sculptures, the cave works of art, the human artistic expressions. These doll humans were wearing garments which was folded over the body. Turban was the traditional custom which was been followed by the Indians. The Vedic time frame was the time length somehow in the range of 1500 to 500 BCE. The articles of clothing worn in the Vedic period time was primarily incorporated a solitary material folded over the entire body and hung over the shoulder. Individuals used to wear the lower article of the clothing called as haridana, which was creased in front and used to attach as a belt called as meghala on the upper piece of the clothing called as uttareya. The Maurya tradition, which was from the 322 to 185 BC, the most punctual proof of sewed female attire is accessible for the sculptures of Mother Goddess from Mathura, 3rd century BCE. Women in the Mauryan period regularly wore a weave textured belt with a drum-headed branch to its finishes. As an upper piece of clothing, individual principal attires was uttaraya, a long scarf. The distinction extincted uniquely in way of wearing. Now and again, its one end is tossed over the shoulder and the other hung on the shoulders onto the other side. Is in materials for the most part, that is cotton, silk, cloth, fleece, muslin are the utilized filaments for the trimming of the hooks and the expected spots. A portion of the adornment for the particular name too, that is the satlari, cholari, palhari were the portions of the accessories. The Vedic time frame was one of the lengthiest period from the 1500 to 500 BC. As we said before, India has its own culture to follow the dresses. Now we can go into the factors influencing fashion. For the first factor is the social factor. Social factor is particularly apparent in the area of clothing and adornment. In these merchandise categories, most products are nearly adequate from a functional point of view to the customer into a large point, making social identity statements which has to be bought. Fashion is a more than a social process involving clothing and dresses, but in an expensive appreciation of novelty and individuality, which highlights both economic production and personal consumption. The fashion industry is one of the other industry which makes trends into existence, such as a demographic change may result in the threat of solely teenage-oriented apparel firms because the compensation for these shrinkage segments become more intensive. In fashion, social changes were apparently very important. For example, in the early ages of the 1900s, women were not having their own property. They had their own boat or earned a living except of the limited occasion. During this time, women dressed how their fathers wanted them to dress and later how their husbands want them to. Overall, this changed in the woman's characters. Fashion is inherently a social phenomenon. A person cannot have fashion on oneself but somehow define a fashion. This discrimination is called as trickle down to bottom up, bubble up, or trivially called as different cultures through medias. Fashion related to the social and cultural context of an environment according to Martika. Elements of popular culture become fused when the people trend associated turned into genres of music. Like music, news or literature, fashion has been fused into everyday's lives. Fashion is not only seen purely aesthetic, fashion is also a medium of people express their opinions and overall art. The mirrors what performs frequently accomplished through music videos. In the music videos, Formation by Beyonce, according to Charlos, pop star who had several roots, traces of art for the Louisiana culture. Beyonce's catalog, the evolution of the city vibrant style and its turbulent history trade into the Gucci high-collar dress, combat boots. She is one of the Hurricane Katrina. Immediately made herself into a brutally and a race relation in the modern day. Social media is also a place where fashion is represented more often. Some influencers were paid huge amounts of money to promote their product, whereas Instagram is the most important platform where advertisements, but Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter and other platforms also are here for the same reason. Fashion is inherently a social phenomenon. A person cannot have a fashion by oneself, but also can be defined as fashion to as its followers. Fashion related to many other people make the same type of fashion influences for the people. Priorly, as I said before, each fashion had their own career life. Likewise, Chanel were the most top brands in the world. By the mid-50s, Dior, the new look, has been replaced by the Coco Chanel, who made her comeback with Chanel suits. It was typically an A-line skirted dress braided with a cardigan-style jacket in the year 1957. Another example can be taken from the 1960s to the 1960s, where was the example where the Chanel had different colors which was dyed and had different feminine suits which would fit each body type. Today, technology plays a sizable role in the society, and technology influences a corresponding increasing with the realm of fashion. Wearable technologies has become an cooperative. For example, clothing constructed with a solar panel that charge devices and smart fabrics these days. So 3D printing technology has influenced designers such as Iris Van Herpen and Kimberly Obitis. As a technology influence, 3D printers will become a most accessible designs, and eventually consumers these days become politically influenced by these fashion industries and governments. Internet technology enabling to the far reaches of outline techniques and social media platforms has created previously unimaginable trend influences. Posts on Instagram and Facebook can quickly decrease awareness and also increase the trend in fashion, both in great demand. Machine vision technology has been developed to track how fashion spreads through society. The fashion can now see the direct correlation and how fashion shows influence to street chic outfits. Effects such as this can make the consumers regarding trend. With increasing environment awareness, the economy, that is, spend now, think later, is getting increasingly adequate for the global nation. Today's consumers trend to be a more mindful about consumption, look for its better and also durable options. People has become into a critic, arguing economy based on growth of oxymoron or increasing spiral of consumption rather than an crack into society. Long-term forecasting. Long-term forecasting is the process of analyzing and evaluating trends and can be identified by scanning a various type of sources for information. It is a fashion which lasts over 2 years. When scanning the market and the consumers, fashion forecasting must follow demographic of certain areas, both urban and suburban, as well as examine the impact on internal retail and its consumers due to its economy, political system, environment and culture. Long-term forecasting seeks to identify major changes in international and domestic demographics, shifts in the fashion industry along with market cultures, consumer expectations, values and inclination to buy new developments in technology and science, and shifts in the economic, political and cultural alliances between certain countries. There are many specialization marketing consultants to focus on long-term forecasting and attend trade shows to an event to notify the industry on what it is to come. Any changes in the demography and the physiography can affect the consumer's needs and the company business into a particular market to a determine. Now we can see what is a short-term forecasting. Short-term forecasting focuses on current event both domestically and internationally, as well as a pop culture in order to identify possible trends and can be communicated to the consumers through a seasonal color palette. Fabric and silhouette stories. It gives a fashion a modern twist to a classic look to the indigenous eyes. Some important areas to follow is the short term, that is the current event, arts, sports, science and technologies. Trend forecasting. Each retailer's trend forecasting varies mainly into its dependence upon how the consumers take it. Like every season, there are hundreds of designs showing breathtaking collection to the consumers. What is the matter which says that in-the-house designers, buyers at fast fashion retailers, people who are paying close attention, identifying and predicting which style, pattern and cuts will appear for a particular average woman. Large companies such as Forever 21 have their own trend departments with their own styles, fabrics, and colors for the upcoming season. This could be referred as a vertical integration. A company with its own trend department have a boutique attachments to the consumers. Each season collection offered by a product developer is the result of trend reaching focus on the target market it has defined for itself. Product developers may offer anywhere from 2 to 6 season collections per year, depending on the impact fashion. Fashion wear companies now makes 6 lines a year. Men wear companies present 2 to 4 lines a year, and children wear firms typically presented 3 to 4 seasonal collections. For each season, a collection is designed by the product producers and developers, makes the specific theme, which is linked to the color and fabric story. A merchandiser also plays a key role for the direction of the upcoming trend. Different firm developers, merchandisers have their more experience in buying and knowledge over the consumers will be looking for. The designers take the particular trend and then determine the styles, silhouettes, and colors on the line and garments while creating an overall theme for the particular season. Individual bloggers also contribute their style for the fashion forecasting. The classic way for fashion brands and agencies to focus trends is by analyzing runway shows, trade shows, newspapers, and magazine information and market research. In the past, these sources were the only available fashion forecasters, and brands and the retailers would be an information to plan their future collection. But the fashion industry has changed, and described analytical is now accomplished by the perspective and predictive analytics. The internet and the consequent social media and accreted by the life cycle of trends and birth phenomenon like fast fashion and global supply chain. The trend virality, time to make speed, the consumer behavior has shifted to the last decade as a result of the digital age. There are now fashion forecasting services using new technologies and mostly to predict what's coming next. Artificial intelligence in fashion forecasting is often now to use analyze text, hashtags on social media, online collections published by brands and magazines, and consumer behavior on e-commerce. On social media, machine learning is another way, and it is the algorithm process of analyze a large database of images to determine different features of clothing and accessories. The raw data can be translated into a trend forecast, and where human interventions from determining a trend online visibility to the future market demand. Artificial intelligence may be an application in fashion forecasting that touches product assortment, customer behavior, designer process, market, and more. The growing importance of social media and consumer perception has been quickened in the adoption of face. All this has been made changes according to centuries in the fashion industry. There are few more things that a fashion industry can be going through. The first thing is a fashion trend. A fashion trend occurs when a particular item, silhouette, color, or a new look rises into a fashion. Next is the fashion cycle. The fashion cycle is a natural cycle by which a fashion trend is introduced, rises to mainstream popularity, declines, and gets rejected over the fashion scale. Finally, now we can discuss about skills to become a designer, which is the most prominent topic that the new generation should look up to. Finally, I conclude taking that unique skills to justify the job responsibilities. Every field needs its own skills, and to be successful is a particular path. Here are some of the key skills which are the most required by a person to achieve desired positions in fashion designing. Creativeness, artistic thinking, strong imagination skills, detailed observation skills, innovative skills, competitiveness, good communication skills. All these make one a good designer in the field of fashion. Thank you.